Most people wake up every day hoping life will change. Winners wake up every day deciding to change it. That's the difference. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not luck. It's not talent. It's not timing. It's what you do daily. Because success is not built in breakthroughs. It's built in repetitions, quiet ones, boring ones, unseen ones. And in this audiobook, you're not going to hear fantasy, you're going to hear reality. Because in this audiobook, 10 Things Winners Do Every Day, you will discover the exact daily behaviors that separate people who stay stuck from people who move forward year after year, without burning out, without waiting for motivation, without excuses. This is not inspiration for a moment. This is a system for a life. And here's the punchline you need to hear early. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your daily standards. If that line hit you, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear will change how you wake up, how you move through the day, and how you build yourself. One decision at a time. The roadmap. Across this audiobook, we will walk through 10 daily habits that winners practice relentlessly. Not when it's convenient, not when they feel inspired, but especially when they don't. You'll learn how winners start their mornings, how they protect their focus, how they manage their energy, how they think under pressure, how they build confidence without hype, and how they keep moving forward even when no one is watching. Each chapter is a mirror, not to judge you, but to wake you up. Because awareness is the first step to discipline, and discipline is the doorway to freedom. Chapter 1. Win the first battle of the day. The alarm rings. That moment matters more than you think, because that moment is not about sleep, it's about identity. Every morning the alarm clock asks you a question. Are you in control, or are you negotiable? Most people negotiate. 5 more minutes, 1 more snooze, just today. And every time they do, they teach their brain a dangerous lesson. Comfort comes before commitment. Winners don't do that. Not because they love mornings, not because they're superhuman, but because they understand something simple. How you start the day decides how seriously you take yourself. When winners get up when they said they would, they send a signal to their mind. My word matters. That signal builds trust. That trust builds confidence. That confidence carries into the day. Discipline does not start with big goals. It starts with small obedience. If you can't keep a promise to yourself in the morning, how will you keep one when things get hard? This isn't about waking up early. It's about waking up on purpose. When the alarm rings, don't think. Thinking invites excuses. Move. Feet on the floor. Body upright. Day claimed. That's the first win. And winners stack wins early. Chapter 2. Pick one target and commit without distraction. Most people aren't failing. They're scattered. Too many goals, too many ideas, too much noise. Winners simplify. They choose one primary objective for the season they're in. Not forever, not for life, for now. Because focus is power, and power comes from concentration, not busyness. When you try to build 10 things at once, you dilute your energy. When you build one thing relentlessly, momentum appears. Winners wake up knowing exactly what matters today. Not everything, just the one thing that moves their life forward. Then they protect it. They say no more than they say yes. They turn off what distracts them. They work in silence when necessary. Not because they hate people, but because they respect their future. If your attention is always available, your progress will always be delayed. Distraction is not harmless. It is the quiet thief of potential. Winners don't eliminate distractions completely. They eliminate them during execution. When it's time to work, they work. When it's time to rest, they rest. That clarity is a skill and a daily habit. Chapter 3. Control the body to control the mind. Your body is always teaching your mind how to feel. Most people ignore this. Winners don't. Posture matters, movement matters, breathing matters. When you slump, your confidence drops. When you move with intention, your mind follows. Winners carry themselves like they belong in their own life. Shoulders back, head up, steps deliberate, not to impress anyone, but to remind themselves, I am present, I am capable, I am here. You cannot think strong while moving weak. The body is the fastest lever you have to change your state, and winners use it daily. Transition. So far, you've seen how winners win the morning, simplify their focus, and use the body to anchor confidence. But this is just the surface, because the real separation happens in how winners communicate, protect their time, and respond under pressure. And that's where we go next, because the next habit is the one most people avoid, and winners master. Chapter 4. Speak with intention, not emotion. Most people talk too much. Winners speak with purpose, not louder, not more often, more precisely. Every word you speak trains your identity. When you complain, you train weakness. When you gossip, you train distraction. When you exaggerate, you train insecurity. When you lie, you train instability. Winners are careful with their language because they understand something subtle. Words shape reality. They don't waste energy explaining themselves to people who don't listen. They don't argue to feel right. They don't speak from impulse. They pause, and that pause gives them power. When you speak less, people listen more. When you speak clearly, people trust more. When you speak honestly, you trust yourself more. Winners ask themselves before speaking, does this add value? Does this align with who I'm becoming? Does this move the situation forward? If not, they stay silent. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. And control is influence. Chapter 5. Protect your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Time is the only resource you never get back. Money can be regained, energy can be restored, reputation can be rebuilt. Time only moves in one direction. Winners understand this early. They don't give their best hours to random tasks. They don't let urgent nonsense replace important progress. They don't confuse being busy with being effective. Winners schedule their priorities instead of prioritizing their schedule. They block time to think, time to work deeply, time to train their body, time to rest intentionally. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If you don't decide how your time is used, someone else will decide for you. Notifications decide, emails decide, other people's emergencies decide, distractions decide. Winners remove decision fatigue by deciding once. This hour is for creation. This hour is for recovery. This hour is for growth. Time discipline creates life discipline. Chapter 6. Do the hard thing first. Most people delay discomfort. Winners confront it early. They don't wait until they feel ready. They don't wait until conditions are perfect. They don't wait until confidence appears. They move first. Because winners know something simple. Confidence is the reward of action, not the prerequisite. Every day has one task you'd rather avoid. One conversation you'd rather postpone. One responsibility you'd rather push to tomorrow. That task is the key. Do it first. When you do the hardest thing early, everything else feels lighter. Your mind relaxes. Your stress drops. Your confidence rises. Momentum appears not because the day got easier, but because you got stronger. Winners don't look for comfort. They look for completion. Chapter 7. Train the mind. Not just the skill. Skills get outdated. Mindsets don't. Winners invest in how they think, not just what they do. They read. They listen. They reflect. They question their assumptions. Not for entertainment, for alignment. They ask, what belief is holding me back? What pattern keeps repeating? What am I avoiding seeing? Most people run from self-reflection because it's uncomfortable. Winners lean into it because it's liberating. A trained mind adapts. An untrained mind panics. And in a fast-changing world, adaptability is survival. Chapter 8. Master your emotions before they master you. Every day will test you, not with huge disasters, but with small emotional traps. Frustration, impatience, doubt, comparison, anger, overthinking. Most people let these emotions decide their behavior. Winners don't. They feel everything, but they don't let feelings drive the wheel. Because winners understand one critical truth. Emotions are information, not instructions. Just because you feel tired doesn't mean you stop. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you react. Just because you feel unmotivated doesn't mean you quit. Winners pause before responding. They create space between stimulus and action. That space is power. When something goes wrong, winners ask, "What is this teaching me? What is within my control right now? What response moves me forward?" They don't argue with reality. They adapt to it. Emotional control is not suppression, it's direction, and the person who can direct their emotions can direct their life. Chapter 9. Build yourself when no one is watching. This is where most people fail, because no one is clapping, no one is commenting, no one is praising, no one is noticing. So they slow down. Winners don't. Winners understand something most people never learn. Your future is built in private. The workouts no one sees, the studying no one applauds, the discipline no one congratulates, the restraint no one rewards. That's where identity is forged. Winners don't need an audience to show up. They don't need validation to stay consistent. They know, if I do this long enough, the results will speak for me. And when recognition finally arrives, it feels quiet, because the real reward already happened. They became someone stronger. Chapter 10. End the day with intention, not exhaustion. Most people end the day drained but unclear. Winners end the day tired but aligned. They don't collapse into sleep without reflection. They ask simple questions. What did I do well today? What did I avoid? What will I improve tomorrow? This isn't self-criticism. It's calibration. Winners don't judge themselves harshly. They adjust intelligently. And before they sleep, they decide one thing. What is the most important action tomorrow? That decision clears the mind. It reduces anxiety. It sets direction. You don't sleep better by doing less. You sleep better by knowing you're on track. Chapter 11. Turn habits into identity. Most people treat habits like tasks. Winners treat habits like identity statements. They don't say, "I'm trying to work out." They say, "I train." They don't say, "I hope I stay consistent." They say, "I'm the kind of person who shows up." This shift is everything, because the brain doesn't argue with identity. It obeys it. When your habits match who you believe you are, discipline stops feeling like force. It feels natural. Effort fades, resistance lowers, consistency stabilizes. Winners don't rely on motivation. They rely on alignment. Every habit is a vote. Every repetition is reinforcement. Over time, the question changes from, "Should I do this?" to, "This is just what I do." That's when progress accelerates. Chapter 12. Set standards, not goals. Goals are temporary. Standards are permanent. Goals say, "I want to achieve this." Standards say, "This is how I live." Winners don't chase motivation spikes. They operate from minimum acceptable standards. They decide in advance how they show up, what they tolerate, what they refuse to accept. Standards remove negotiation. When standards are clear, decision-making becomes simple. You don't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" You ask, "Is this who I am?" And the answer guides your action. Winners raise their standards quietly, without announcing it, without waiting for approval. They just live differently. Chapter 13. Control your inputs to control your outputs. What you consume shapes what you produce. Most people fill their minds with noise and wonder why they feel unfocused. Winners curate their inputs. They limit mindless scrolling. They choose content intentionally. They protect their mental environment. Because garbage in will always create garbage out. Winners don't obsess over information. They focus on implementation. One useful idea applied daily beats 10 ideas consumed passively. Your mind becomes what you feed it. Winners feed it clarity. Chapter 14. Keep score honestly. Winners track what matters. Not to judge themselves, not to feel guilty, to stay aware. Awareness creates adjustment. Adjustment creates improvement. They track habits, time, energy, progress. Not perfectly, but consistently. Because what gets measured gets improved, and what gets ignored gets repeated. Winners don't fear the truth. They use it. Chapter 15. Move forward. Even when motivation is gone, motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It rises and fades. It disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. Winners don't depend on motivation. They depend on structure. They understand a truth most people resist. You don't need motivation to move forward. You need a system that moves you when motivation disappears. Winners expect low-energy days. They expect resistance. They expect moments of doubt. So they prepare for them. They lower the barrier to action. They reduce friction. They make progress inevitable. On hard days, winners don't ask, "Can I do everything?" They ask, "What is the smallest action that keeps me in motion?" One page, one set, one message, one decision. Momentum is more important than intensity, and winners never let momentum die completely. Chapter 16. Respond to failure with strategy, not emotion. Failure is not personal, but most people take it personally. They see a setback and turn it into a story about who they are. Winners don't do that. They separate events from identity. A bad day doesn't mean you're bad. A mistake doesn't mean you're broken. A delay doesn't mean you're done. Winners respond to failure like engineers. They analyze, they adjust, they refine. They ask, what failed? Why did it fail? What system needs improvement? No drama, no self-hate, no spirals, just correction. Failure becomes feedback. Feedback becomes precision. Precision becomes progress. Chapter 17. Keep your ego small and your standards. High ego wants recognition. Standards demand results. Most people inflate their ego to protect themselves from discomfort. Winners do the opposite. They stay humble so they can keep learning. They don't pretend to know everything. They don't defend their flaws. They don't cling to outdated beliefs. They evolve. High standards mean you don't settle, you don't excuse, you don't rationalize. But low ego means you stay curious, you stay adaptable, you stay coachable. This combination is rare and powerful. It keeps winners sharp long after others stagnate. Chapter 18. Rest with purpose, not escape. Winners rest, but they don't escape. There's a difference. Escape numbs you, rest restores you. Escape avoids responsibility. Rest prepares you to return stronger. Winners rest without guilt, because they've earned it. They don't scroll endlessly to avoid their thoughts. They step away intentionally. They sleep deeply. They disconnect fully. They recover deliberately. Rest is not laziness when it's planned. It's maintenance, and maintenance prevents collapse. Chapter 19. Live by a personal code. Winners don't wake up every day guessing who they are. They live by a code, a small set of rules they do not negotiate with, a framework that decides their behavior before emotions get involved. Not rules imposed by others, rules chosen deliberately. A personal code sounds like this. I do what I said I would do. I don't abandon myself. I act with integrity even when it's inconvenient. I choose long-term respect over short-term comfort. I improve something every single day. This code becomes an anchor. When life gets chaotic, the code stabilizes you. When emotions rise, the code grounds you. When distractions multiply, the code clarifies your next move. Winners don't ask every day, "What should I do?" They already decided. And that decision removes friction from life. Chapter 20. Becoming consistent for life. Consistency is not intensity. It's not grinding endlessly. It's not pushing until you break. It's not proving anything to anyone. Consistency is returning. Returning after bad days. Returning after missed habits. Returning after setbacks. Returning after doubt. Winners don't demand perfection. They demand continuity. They understand something most people never accept. Progress doesn't require flawless execution. It requires non-quitting. When you fall off track, you don't punish yourself. You don't overcorrect. You don't spiral. You return. The fastest way forward is always the next right action, and winners take it. Again and again. Chapter 21. The quiet confidence of daily progress. One day, you'll notice something subtle. You'll walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Not because you announced change, but because it accumulated. Confidence will no longer feel like hype. It will feel like calm. You won't need validation. You won't need approval. You won't need permission, because you'll know, quietly, that you are doing the work. Daily progress creates a kind of confidence that cannot be shaken. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become capable. Chapter 22. Winning is a daily practice. Winning is not a destination. There is no finish line where effort ends and fulfillment magically appears. Winning is a practice. You practice discipline. You practice focus. You practice emotional control. You practice integrity. You practice growth. Every day. Some days you practice well. Some days you struggle. But as long as you return to the practice, you are winning. Because winning is not about comparison. It's about alignment. Alignment between who you are and who you're becoming. Winners choose responsibility over blame. There is a moment in every life where blaming stops working, blaming the past, blaming circumstances, blaming people, blaming luck, blaming timing. Winners pass through that moment and never go back. Not because life suddenly became fair, but because they realized something powerful. Blame gives comfort. Responsibility gives control. Every time you blame something outside yourself, you hand over your power. Every time you take responsibility, you take it back. Winners don't ask, "Whose fault is this?" They ask, "What can I control next?" This mindset is not soft, it's not passive, it's not self-punishing, it's strategic, because the person who owns the outcome owns the future, and winners want ownership. Next chapter. They build confidence by keeping small promises. Most people try to build confidence with big statements. Winners build it with small actions. They don't promise the world. They promise consistency. They say, "I'll do 10 minutes. I'll show up today. I'll finish this one thing." And then they do it. Confidence is not self-talk. It's self-evidence. Every small promise kept is a brick in your self-respect. Every promise broken creates internal doubt. Winners protect their word to themselves because they know, if I can trust me, everything else becomes easier. They don't need hype. They don't need motivation. They have credibility with themselves. Next chapter. Winners seek discomfort on purpose. Most people structure their lives to avoid discomfort. Winners do the opposite. They step into resistance before it grows. They lean into effort before it becomes overwhelming. They face conversations early. They train when it's inconvenient. They start before they feel ready, because discomfort handled early is always smaller than discomfort delayed. Winners understand this equation. Short-term discomfort prevents long-term regret. So they don't wait until pain forces them to change. They choose challenge while it's still manageable. And over time, that choice compounds into strength. Next chapter. They keep their circle clean. Winners are intentional about who has access to their energy. Not out of arrogance, out of awareness. They know negativity spreads. Complacency is contagious. Excuses are persuasive. So they limit exposure. They don't argue with pessimism. They don't try to save everyone. They don't absorb every opinion. They choose environments that reinforce growth, because discipline is easier when your surroundings support it. And winning becomes sustainable when your circle aligns with your standards. Next chapter. Winners think in trajectories, not moments. Most people judge themselves by single days. Winners judge themselves by direction. A bad day doesn't define them. A good day doesn't inflate them. They zoom out. They ask, am I trending forward? Am I improving over time? Am I becoming more capable than last month? This long-term perspective protects them from emotional whiplash. They don't quit after setbacks. They don't relax after small wins. They stay steady, because success doesn't come from intensity bursts. It comes from direction held long enough. Next chapter. They keep learning, even when they're doing well. The moment most people slow down is when things start working. Winners speed up their learning then. They stay curious, they stay humble, they stay open to correction. They understand what got you here will not keep you here. So they refine, they upgrade, they adapt. They don't cling to old methods just because they once worked. They evolve, and that evolution keeps them relevant while others plateau. Next chapter. Winners practice calm under pressure. Pressure reveals character. Some people panic, some people rush, some people freeze. Winners slow down, they breathe, they assess. They choose deliberately, not because they don't feel pressure, but because they've trained their response. They know emotional reactions make poor decisions, so they practice calm long before chaos arrives. Calm becomes their advantage, and when others spiral, winners execute. Next chapter. They end each day slightly better than they started, not dramatically better. Not transformed overnight, just slightly improved. A better decision, a cleaner boundary, a clearer thought, a completed task. Winners don't underestimate small gains. They know improvement compounds, 1% today, another tomorrow, another next week. Over time, that quiet accumulation becomes unstoppable. And one day people ask, how did you get so far? The answer is simple. They showed up, they adjusted, they repeated. Every single day. Winners don't wait to feel ready. Read this slowly. No one ever feels fully ready. Not to start, not to lead, not to change, not to level up. Readiness is a myth that comfort invented to delay growth. Winners understand this early. They don't wait for confidence. They don't wait for clarity. They don't wait for permission. They move while uncertain. They act while learning. They begin while imperfect. Because readiness is not a feeling. It's a result. You become ready after you start, not before. Every time you move without certainty, you expand your capacity. And over time, what once felt intimidating becomes normal. That's how growth works. Next chapter. They control their internal dialogue. Most people are not held back by the world. They are held back by how they speak to themselves. The tone, the assumptions, the conclusions. Winners audit their inner dialogue. They don't insult themselves for mistakes. They don't catastrophize setbacks. They don't label temporary failure as permanent identity. They correct themselves calmly. Instead of, I always mess this up, they say, this didn't work, adjust. Instead of, I'm not built for this, they say, I'm still building the skill. This is not positive thinking. It's accurate thinking. And accurate thinking creates forward motion. How you speak to yourself determines how long you last when things get hard. Winners last. Next chapter. Winners finish what they start. This sounds simple. It's not. Most people love starting. Few people respect finishing. Starting feels exciting. Finishing feels demanding. But winners know something crucial. Unfinished work drains energy. Finished work creates momentum. So they close loops. They complete tasks, they end projects, they finish conversations, they finalize decisions. Not perfectly, but completely. Completion builds confidence. Completion builds trust. Completion builds self-respect. Every finished thing whispers to the mind, I follow through. And that whisper grows louder over time. Next chapter. They act as if their future is watching winners live with a quiet awareness. The future version of them is observing, watching the choices, watching the discipline, watching the excuses, watching the effort. Not with judgment, but with memory. They ask themselves, will I respect this choice later? Will this decision age well? Is this aligned with who I'm becoming? This perspective changes behavior instantly. You stop choosing short-term relief that creates long-term regret. You start choosing actions your future self will thank you for. And that relationship between present you and future you becomes one of trust. Winners eliminate decision fatigue. Most people waste energy on decisions that don't matter. What to wear, when to start, whether to act now or later, if they feel like it today. By noon, they're exhausted, not from work, but from indecision. Winners simplify. They decide once and automate the rest. They wear similar routines. They follow set schedules. They remove unnecessary choices. Not because they lack creativity, but because they protect it. Every decision you remove frees energy for what matters. Winners don't spend willpower on basics. They reserve it for execution. Next chapter. They practice discipline when it doesn't matter. Here's the secret most people miss. Discipline is built when the stakes are low, not when everything is on the line, not when pressure forces action, but when no one would notice if you skipped. That's where discipline is trained. Winners show up on ordinary days, on boring days, on days with no reward, because they know, if I can do this when it doesn't matter, I'll do it when it does. Small acts of discipline compound into unshakable character, and character decides outcomes long before talent does. Next chapter. Winners don't argue with reality. Reality doesn't care what you wish were true. Winners accept this. They don't waste time denying facts. They don't complain about circumstances. They don't resist what already is. They acknowledge reality quickly and calmly. Then they ask, given this, what's the smartest move? Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is leverage. The faster you accept reality, the faster you can work with it. And winners always work with reality, not against it. Next chapter. They measure success internally. First, most people measure success by applause. Winners measure it by alignment. They ask, did I act with integrity today? Did I do what I said I would do? Did I move closer to who I'm becoming? External validation is unstable. Internal alignment is permanent. When you win internally, external results follow, eventually. But even before they arrive, you sleep better. You move with confidence. You stand on solid ground. That's the kind of success winners care about most. The final truth. Here is the truth that ties everything together. You don't need to change your life all at once. You need to change how you live today. Do that long enough, and the future rearranges itself around you. You don't become a winner overnight. You build yourself daily, quietly, relentlessly, deliberately. Closing message. If this audiobook gave you clarity, take a moment and like it, not for us, but as a promise to yourself that you'll take today seriously. If one idea stood out, comment it and declare it. Words become real when spoken. If you want to keep building discipline, focus, and emotional strength through long-form audiobooks, subscribe and stay on this path. And if you know someone who's tired of waiting for motivation and ready to build themselves daily, share this with them. Because success is not hidden, it's practiced every single day.